Are you ready for another memory analysis exercise? In today's video, I'll be going over a lab provided by CyberDefenders called Ramnit. And in this lab, we'll be analyzing a memory dump from an endpoint where our intrusion detection system had alerted us for suspicious activity. Before I begin, if you enjoy these lab walkthroughs, I would highly encourage you to take a look at the hands-on lab playlist that I will leave down below for you to get more practice. With that being said, let's get started. To get started, you want to head over to cyberdefenders.org and create an account if you haven't done so already. Once you signed in, you want to head over to Cyber Range and click on Practice. And we want to search for the lab called Ramnit. Click on the lab and we'll go over the scenario. It says, our intrusion detection system has alerted us to suspicious behavior on a workstation, pointing to a likely malware intrusion. A memory dump of the system has been taken for analysis. Your task is to analyze this dump, trace the malware's actions, and report key findings. Taking a look at the top left corner, we do have our tools that are recommended by CyberDefenders, which are Volatility 3 and VirusTotal. The tool that I will be using in addition to Volatility 3 is going to be MemProc FS. Now, I did create a video going over a lab using the MemProc FS tool. And if you haven't taken a look at that, I would recommend you pause this video and take a look at the MemProc FS lab that I did, because that will show you how to install MemProc FS. Let's go ahead and download our files by clicking on Download Lab Files, and I'll select the desktop here. Click on Save. Do keep in mind of the password, which is cyberdefenders.org, all lowercase. Once the file is downloaded, let's go ahead and open that up, and we'll extract the file here. We do want to type in the password of cyberdefenders.org. And while that extracts, let's go ahead and open up a PowerShell window with administrator privileges. Once we have this up and running, I'll go ahead and change the directory into our memproc fs. And let's go ahead and invoke memproc fs, hit tab for auto completion. I'll type in -device, and I'll point this over to our memory dump file. Now, again, I am going to assume that you have memproc fs installed. If you don't, I do recommend you take a look at the lab video where I used memproc FS to analyze a memory dump. And I'll leave that video in the description down below. Paste in the directory, hit / and tab for auto completion. And now we're pointing to our memory.dump file. Go ahead and hit enter. Take note of the mount point, which is on the M drive here. Open up my file explorer and let's double click our M drive. Now we have everything ready to go. Well, actually, I don't have Volatility installed just yet. So let's go ahead and do that. To download Volatility, all I need to do here is type in Volatility 3, click on the GitHub, and if we scroll down, we do see the installing instructions. If you want to use the latest development version of Volatility 3, we recommend you manually clone this repository. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to be running the pip install Volatility 3 using WSL. aka Windows Subsystem for Linux. Now, if you're running a Windows operating system, you could install Windows Subsystem for Linux as well. And to do that, you can just type in Windows Subsystem Linux. And you can find documentation on how to install that. Essentially, what WSL will do is allow you to run Linux within your Windows operating system. With my Windows Subsystem for Linux up and running, I am going to type in pip install Volatility 3. And it says command pip not found, but can be installed with sudo apt install python 3-pip. So that is what I'll be typing in. Enter in my password, hit Y to continue. Now that that's done, hit the up arrow key and we'll rerun our command. Now we do have some warnings saying the scripts vol and vol shell are installed in the following directory, which is not on path. Consider adding this directory to path, or if you prefer to suppress this warning, use the -no warn script location. We can go ahead and ignore this for now. What this is essentially saying is that I can't just simply type in vol, because it would be like, what is vol? What I'll do is cd.local/bin and type in ls. And here is where my volatility is stored. I can call this by typing in ./vol. We have an error saying, please select a plugin to run. But essentially, we do know for a fact that Volatility is up and running. Clear out the screen. Now let's start off with question number 1 for our lab. Expand the questions here. What is the name of the process responsible for the suspicious activity? For this question, I will be using memproc.fs for our analysis. I'll head over to the sys directory, go under my net, and I'll click on the netstat.txt. I want to see if there are any established network connections towards unusual ports. As a note, whenever you take a look at the netstat output, you do want to focus on established connections. So take a look under the state column. We are not interested in closed or listening. What we're interested in is the established. So these are the existing/ongoing network connections that are being established during the time of capture. So let's see here. We have established on port 443, where the process responsible is service host. Now this could be suspicious, but let's keep scrolling down here. All three established. There's another one here. Again, service host and more service host. Scrolling down, we do have a closed and a SYN sent. This could be interesting because if you recall the three-way handshake, the sender that wants to establish a communication towards a target must send a SYN first saying, hey, I want to connect with you. The target, if it's quote unquote alive and listening onto that particular port, they will then receive that SYN and then send a SYN ACK, meaning, hey, I can see you. And finally, the sender will then send the final ACK. Once they do that, now they can start communicating and your state will then change to established. So whenever you see a SYN sent, what this tells me is that once upon a time, this particular process of Chrome setup.exe wanted to establish a connection towards this IP address of 58.64.204.181 on port 5202. But the fact that we're seeing a SYN sent and not an established, what this tells me is that this particular IP address is likely no longer listening onto this port or is not alive. Can that be suspicious? Maybe, maybe not. But what is interesting is the port. It is going towards port 5202. This is an unusual port because if you recall, an unusual port are ports that are not 80 or 443 or any of the common ports. What we can do here is copy the IP address and use an IP reputation tool like AbuseIPDB. From here, I'll paste it in and we can see that this was not found in the database, but we do see the country of Hong Kong and the city of Hong Kong. Does that mean it's malicious? No. Does it mean it's safe? No. So what we need to do is dig a bit deeper. Going back over to my netstat output here, I do want to take note of the Chrome setup.exe, which is our responsible process. And if we take a look at the second column, the process ID here is 4628. Let's keep that in mind. Going back over to my memproc.fs file directory, I am going to go back to sys and then head over to our proc directory, which will contain all of our process outputs. I'll click on the proc-v, which is our verbose output. And as a quick refresher, do keep in mind of the dashes because this will tell us the process hierarchy. So if you see one dash, that is the parent. If you see two dashes, that is the child process of that parent. To begin, I'll hold Ctrl F, and this will open up a find window. I'll type in our process of interest, which again is 4628, and that is our Chrome setup. Interesting, we cannot find 4628. So let's go back over to our memproc.fs file directory, and I'll head over to the root directory and click on the PID directory. From here, can we find our process of interest, which is 4628. Right here, 4628. And if I click under the name.txt, I can see that it is indeed chrome.exe. Using memproc.fs, we can now drill into the memory space itself to reveal any interesting information that can help us pivot in our investigation. But before we do go further, let's take a look at our question number 1 again. And that is what is the name of the process responsible for the suspicious activity? Going based off of our analysis here, we aren't really sure that Chrome setup.exe is our suspicious process. Now, we could probably guess that it could be because it is making an outbound connection towards a Hong Kong IP address. and not, let's say, Google. So that could be a little weird. What we can also do here is under our process of 4628 directory, we can go inside the files itself. And clicking on modules, this will contain the DLLs along with the executable as well. And from here, what I can do is hold Shift, right click, open up PowerShell, and I can actually generate a file hash. Get file hash, Chrome setup, and hit tab for auto completion. Let's double click this hash here and use the site like VirusTotal to take a look at its reputation. Paste that in and let's see here. Wow, 64 vendors flagged this as malicious as a recording. This is very likely our process of interest. To recap what I just did here, the first thing I did was take a look at the network connections. And I did notice that there was an outbound connection where the Chrome setup.exe was the initiating process. However, when we took a look at the IP address, because there weren't any reports, we had to do some more digging. And from there, we took a look at the process of interest, which was 4628. Now, we couldn't find anything under our process output, but we were able to find the process ID directory. And from there, we were able to drill into the memory space and take a look at its handles. These handles contain the DLL file along with the executable. From there, we took the file hash of the file executable, threw that into VirusTotal, and now we can confirm that this is indeed our suspicious process of interest. So going over to CyberDefenders, the name of the process responsible for the suspicious activity is Chrome setup.exe. What is the exact path of the executable for the malicious process? That is a great question. Let's go back over to our memproc.fs. If we go back over to our process ID directory, which is 4628, scrolling down, we can click on win-path. And here is the full file path. Now you will see a /device/hard disk volume 3. This is essentially our C drive. Copy that. I'll type in C:/ and paste that in here. Hit submit, and that is correct. Question number 3, identifying network connections is crucial for understanding the malware's communication strategy. What IP address did the malware attempt to connect to? This we saw under our netstat output. And again, it is this right here. So 58.64.204.181. Now, out of curiosity, if I were to paste this into VirusTotal, what would we get here? We will get one vendor flagging this as malicious. Clicking under our community, we can see the IP address connected to a malware origin, Hong Kong, extracted for the grep PID 4628 and process Chrome setup. Interesting. So this is another avenue that we could have done to achieve the same result. But let's just say the comment wasn't here because this was posted 1 month ago. Then you can pivot using the same way I did by taking a look at the file hash. This IP would be the answer to question number 3. To determine the specific geographical origin of the attack, which city is associated with the IP address the malware communicated with? Going back over to Abuse IPDB, the city is Hong Kong. Type in Hong Kong and hit submit. All right, question number 5. Hashes serve as unique identifiers for files, assisting in the detection of similar threats across different machines. What is the SHA-1 hash of the malware executable? So it is looking for the SHA-1 hash of the malware executable. I can open up my PowerShell here, hit the up arrow key, and by default, running the get-file hash runs the algorithm of SHA-256. So if I'm looking for SHA-1, I can just type in dash, type in algorithm, and we'll use SHA-1. Hit enter, and it will generate a SHA-1 hash. I'll double click this hash, and let's try that here. And we do get a wrong answer. You know what? I'll use volatility 3 to see if we can get something else. Again, to invoke volatility, we do want to type in ./vol, and I'll use the flag of -f to point to a file. We do want to point towards our memory dump. And this is stored under my mount, C, users, my name. And again, this is going to be different to you, so just make sure that you point it to wherever your memory dump is. Once our memory dump is selected, we do want to use the plugin of process list. And to do that, I'll type in windows.pslist. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm just curious to see if volatility can see our Chrome setup.exe process. And if we scroll up, we do indeed see our Chrome setup right here with the process ID of 4628 and a parent process of 4568. On the right-hand side, we have a true flag, whereas some of them say false. Now, what is this true flag here? Well, if I scroll all the way up, this will tell us if it is WoW64. What is WoW64? That is a 32-bit program. As a note for you, a lot of malware are 32-bit programs. So that is one threat hunting technique that you can use. Now, not all 32-bit programs are evil, but it is something that you can take a look at. The next thing to do here is to dump our process. And to do that, I'll rerun the command with windows.pslist. However, I will type in the --PID flag 4628 to let volatility know that I'm interested in this particular process ID. Let me go ahead and expand this just a bit here. And finally, I'll type in --dump. And now if I type in ls, my file is right here. Now, let's generate a SHA-1 sum hash. Point it over to my 4628, hit tab for auto completion and enter. Go ahead and copy my 5D52 hash, and let's try this one more time. And that is still the wrong answer. Okay, let's try something different here. I'm going to be running the plugin called dump files. So windows.dump files, and I'll point it over to the process identifier of 4628, and I'll hit enter. What this plugin is going to do is essentially dump all of the files related to that particular process ID. Now here it says volatility could not import a necessary module, which is called capstone. A required Python module is not installed. Install the module and rerun. Okay, to install that, I'll just type in pip install capstone. Once that's good, let's hit the up arrow key again and rerun our dump files. And this should be similar to the output that we saw using memprocfs. And the one that we're interested in is our file. So the chrome setup.exe.img. Go ahead and clear out the screen here, type in ls, and this one right here. Let's try, we have a .dat as well, so that could be interesting too. So let's try SHA-1 sum, and I'll copy this here. The file hash is the 280C ending in 2AD2. And let's try and see if this works. Hey, nice. Question number 5 solved. Using the dump files plugin worked. Now, you might be wondering, why did memprocfs generate a different file hash? And I actually don't have an answer for that. I could speculate, but I would rather not. So if you do have an answer, let me know in the comment section down below. On to question number 6. Examine the malware's development timeline can provide insights into its deployment. What is the compilation timestamp for the malware? Well, using our newfound file hash here that we found in question number 5, we can head over to VirusTotal and go ahead and paste that in here. From here, click on Details, and at the bottom, we can see the creation time under History. This was created back on 2019, December 1st, at 8:36:04 UTC time. Go ahead and copy that. And taking a look at its format, they don't include the UTC. So I'll go ahead and just remove that. Okay, so they really want me to just select it. So this was back on 2019, December 1st, and the time was at 8:36. Nice. The last question, number 7. Identifying the domains associated with this malware is crucial for blocking future malicious communications and detecting any ongoing interactions with those domains within our network. Can you provide the domain connected to the malware? That we can certainly do by going over to our VirusTotal, go into Relations, and this will provide us with all of the contacted URLs that this malware is trying to make. We can see that it tries to go to a site called ddos.dnsnb8.net, and that should be our answer to question number 7. Looking at the format, it is only looking for the root domain along with the top level domain. So I'll just go ahead and copy this, paste that in here, and we don't want the HTTP and the DDoS as well. So we just want the DNS NB8 and .NET. Hit submit, and just like that, we completed our Ramnit lab. Hopefully, by following along, you are now starting to gain a bit more confidence in your ability to analyze a memory dump. Remember to document your work and do some more research on topics where you felt a bit lost while following along. And then continue to rinse and repeat. Put in the reps and you'll be an amazing analyst. That is it for the video, and I hope that you found that informative. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe if you want to. Remember to stay curious and do things differently.